So first of all, thanks, Pat, and for the Connect team to, I suppose, give us an opportunity to come in and speak today. We've been, in Ireland anyway, keeping below the radar for the last 12 months in relation to what we're doing with IoT. And maybe perhaps today I can share with you some information that perhaps you find useful, could be of benefit. And at the end, I'll share some details with you for who you should contact in the Cellnex organization. So hopefully I'm going to share with you today some ideas and provide some really valuable information to some of your projects as well. So again, thanks to Pat and the team for the opportunity. First of all, I give a quick overview of Cellnex. So Cellnex are an infrastructure company working across Europe. We're currently today present in 12 different markets. The company went public back in 2015, started in Spain with 15,000 sites. The business predominantly focused on hosting operator equipment. So any networks rolling out across the Spanish territory, Cellnex were hosting that equipment on towers and sites that they own and control and manage. Today, that footprint has grown over a very short space of time. And you can see there the map across 12 different countries in Europe. And there's now, over 100,000 sites once we've rolled out all the new site requirements that we have for the various operators. And that's across the 12 different countries. Mainly three areas that we focus on: the telecommunications infrastructure. Obviously, that's the towers and sites. That's expanding a little bit further now into the fiber space, because a lot of these sites that are operating wireless communications are starting to need the fiber connectivity. So that's an area that Cellnex is now getting into. We're already very progressed in Ireland. I'll explain a little bit about that in a minute. The second part is the broadcasting networks. So hosting broadcast networks. For example, in Spain, Cellnex is running the broadcast similar to the RTE network here. The Cellnex in Spain is actually running and controlling and managing that network on behalf of the Spanish operators. And then the third part, which is the network services and others, and that's where the IoT comes in. So, there's a lot of projects that Cellnex is delivering, again, right across the different countries, in stadiums, putting in dedicated coverage solutions for mobile. And we've been doing a couple of projects here as well, working with some of the retail organizations where they're struggling, say, in the stores to get coverage. Cellnex here in Ireland have been putting in multi-operator solutions to boost the coverage, so that when people are in the stores actually can make their calls. And we've a lot of different projects in that space going on. The IoT is very new to us here in Ireland, but obviously it's something that Cellnex has been involved in for a couple of years. It gives us a great opportunity to leverage on some of the projects that have been happening in the other markets. And it's allowing us to take the learning and experiences, and in some cases, the actual applications that are being deployed in real life situations. And we're able to bring that into the Irish market and get them up and running very quickly. Just to give you a background to Cellnex in Ireland, because I think it's an interesting story in itself. Back in 2015, the company called Signal was established following the carve out from the Coillte forestry. So Coillte is owning 7% of the landmass in Ireland. And over the last 50 years, Coillte has been facilitating telecom towers being installed on its land. 6,500 properties across the state. And it was no surprise that 7% of the telecom tower infrastructure in Ireland was based on Coilte's portfolio. And in 2015, Coillte sold that estate, and Signal was established as a company. And we started to develop the business here in Ireland, trying to understand what we could do in the Irish ecosystem to try and help with the future technology requirements, new site requirements. And we started by looking at some of the infrastructure that was there, owned by third parties. And we started to acquire sites that had been available in the market for the last 30, 40 years, but there was no investment being put into the infrastructure. So that was an area we started to look at. We grew our site portfolio by acquiring those assets. We then signed a contract with some of the operators to build new sites where they needed to improve the coverage. And that was something that we started in 2018. The business then developed a street work solution, which we're deploying now in nearly every single county in Ireland, which is literally a pole and a cabinet on the side of the public road under a process that's been established. And it's basically going into small localized areas and improving the mobile connectivity in those areas by establishing a very slimline solution in residential areas, in commercial areas, and in some cases in very rural areas of Ireland. It's a very low cost effective solution that can be deployed very quickly. And then in 2019, we were acquired by Cellnex. One of the things we've established in the last year and a half, we agreed with Coillte, for example, where we've now got the rights for a wayleave across the Coillte land, bring fibre into the forest from the public road up to the tower. And that increases the backhaul capability at the sites. So, you know, we're foreseeing in the future that a lot of these sites will need the fibre connectivity in time. So we're actually putting in the infrastructure today in anticipation of that. Then in 2020, towards the end of last year, we signed an agreement with LoRa, with Everynet, to start rolling out a LoRa network in Ireland. And I suppose this is where we started to enter the IoT space. At that particular moment, we had a number of projects that we were talking to various different stakeholders, like the councils, some of the universities, and we thought, yeah, we're going to roll out a couple of gateways. We're going to support the requirement. And as we've stepped into that space, the more and more we see it, we saw that there was a need for a national network. And I think the decision that we made following our engagements with various stakeholders was that there is a real need to roll out this national network. And that's now what we started towards the end of last year. We've basically given a commitment that we're going to roll out a nationwide LoRa network. And it's really interesting because towards the back end of last year, we acquired all of the sites that were belonged to Tree. So Tree sold its network infrastructure sites across 6 different countries in Europe. So Cellnex has acquired 25,000 sites off Tree, and there's over 1,100 of those sites were in Ireland. So now we've increased our site portfolio in Ireland. We're today operating very close to 1,800 sites in the market across every single county. So it now gives us the footprint to establish an IoT presence at every single one of those locations. But when you look at it, we actually don't need that. We'll be able to establish a national coverage of IoT by using much less than that. And the IoT network itself will give us the opportunity to measure and monitor things on those sites that we need from an operational point of view. And even in the last 2 to 3 weeks, we started now to look at the possibility of rolling out renewable energy solutions at these sites. And then realizing that because we have this IoT strategy, we have a means to monitor the various aspects of the energy solution that we need to monitor. So the IoT will give us a lot of capability to do things that perhaps we weren't able to do before. And I think that's the realization from our own business point of view. And I think as we move forward and as we go forward into this, the more we do, the more we see, the more things we'll be able to do with, and the more capability we'll have in relation to IoT. So that's giving you kind of a background to the company. The last bit there is in the last couple of months, we've been working very closely with DCC, and we've delivered the first small cell solutions in Ireland. And this is a project we've been working on with Big Belly Bins in America. So using their presence on the ground in Ireland, putting in the infrastructure to roll out the small cells in high capacity areas of the city. So you can see there the evolution of the business is really expanding. On the IoT side, and I'm sure everybody here knows what the network does, how it operates, our involvement here is the gateway. So we're rolling out the network, putting the gateways on our sites, on our existing sites, where we have a very secure compound. So we already have the sites there, we have the power connection already there, and we have a means to roll out the gateway very quickly. And the site itself is very secure. And as I said, having the IoT presence on the site now gives us the capability from a business point of view ourselves to monitor things on that site that we weren't able to do before. And that's been the real, I think, big realization for us over the last couple of months. Cellnex also has a smart brain, which is the back end. So we have basically a system, it's cloud-based, and that's available. So if somebody is rolling out an application somewhere, we can provide a back-end system for them to be able to present the data, produce the graphs, the reports, create the automation in terms of alerts. And that system is there. It's not something, if somebody wants to come in and use the network, they don't have to buy the platform element of it. But what we're trying to do with this IoT deployment is to basically enable companies, researchers, startups, that they don't have to worry about setting up the network or the connectivity. That's there. It's basically giving all of the companies and service providers who want to get into this space the opportunity to do it really quickly and not have to worry about the network. And that was one of the things we certainly saw even over the last 12 months when we started to look at this area. There was many different people, or many different companies and organizations with great ideas. And the only thing that was stopping them getting the ideas delivered was having to go and set up a network. So what we're doing is we're taking that away. We're taking that problem away from everybody. And we're saying, look, there's the network, it's there. And it then gives the focus on rolling out the applications and getting the applications rolled out really quickly. So we've only just started to roll out the network, and you can see here's the map of Dublin, and already we've got a number of gateways deployed. So you can see the coverage. That's the radio coverage footprint in Dublin today. That's going to expand even between now and the end of the year, because we've got gateways being deployed every week. And the idea is that will be that we'll have a national coverage footprint across every county. And again, as I said, the applications then, or any of the companies that want to roll out the services, they can do that very quickly. And we will be looking for resellers. The platform will be open. Anybody that wants to roll out service on top of it, they'll be able to contact Cellnex and say, how do I get set up on the system? And literally you pay for the connectivity as you use it. So if you're setting up a sensor down in Kerry or Donegal or Limerick, you basically only pay for the connectivity. You'll decide how many messages you want to be sending between the sensor back to the network, and you'll basically pay per message. So that we're hoping that this will give the various organizations that want to get into this space the opportunity to get in there very quickly. On the smart brain side, again, as I said, it's something we have available. If companies don't want to have to develop their own system, or they want to buy something else off the shelf, Cellnex can make this available. We already have this up and running with a number of projects that we've delivered already today in Ireland. And I'm going to give you an example of a couple of the different projects that we've done to date. For example, we have the smart bins. So you probably read about the project down in Eden Derry. We started doing a pilot project there, and it surprised us all, because I suppose we were surprised at how quickly we were able to make it happen. And that, I don't mean that in the sense that when you start sometimes when you start these things, you think you're going to hit all the hurdles. But I think the council, we were working with Offaly County Council. I think the stakeholder engagement was fantastic, and it really happened very seamlessly. And right now today, all the bins in Edenderry are being monitored so that they know when they have to go out and collect the rubbish in the bin. They know how full the bin is at any time. If there's particular bins in the town that are getting overfilled quicker, then they can go out and alleviate the problem as well. So there's much better visibility on that. And again, the Cellnex Smart Brain has been used there to monitor all of the different things, and it's creating the action in terms of what's needed to be done. This is the manhole covers. We're working with one of the councils to monitor the manhole covers so that there's certain issues around the city of people going out and open up manhole covers and putting stuff into the duct and not telling anybody or asking for permission. So what we've done is we've put the monitors on the manhole covers. So if the manhole is lifted, it sends an alert. And if the manhole is not put back correctly, then it obviously sends an alert to say maybe it's been left in a dangerous situation. Very simple application. And again, I think something that it was talked about and it was delivered very quickly, because again, the stakeholder engagement was really strong. There was a desire there to make it happen, but most importantly, the network was there. Nobody had to worry about that. It was just literally, how do I put a sensor on the manhole cover, and then the connectivity brought it back to the Smart Brain. In terms of air quality, we've installed a number of air quality monitors working in conjunction with the EPA. And again, this was delivered down in Edenderry as part of that project. And as part of that process, the EPA said that they wanted to actually calibrate. So we brought a sensor to the table to be deployed, and they wanted to calibrate that against their own air quality monitors. So we've actually got two projects where we're monitoring the air quality in Edenderry, but we're also calibrating the air quality monitors against each other. So, and it's, again, deployment was very quick. The network was there, so it was easy to set it up. And that's all been monitored back through the Smart Brain as well. In terms of parking solutions, and the parking solutions is something that you could talk about it all day, actually, because there's so many different things you could do with parking sensors. But the one application that we have rolled out, and it's quite simple in nature, complex in delivery, but I think, again, the stakeholders that were involved had a real desire to make it happen. And we had a simple example of the e-charging points in Edenderry on the main street, and people parking in them and don't have an electric car. So we had to interface. First of all, we had to get permission from the roads authority to put a sensor on the ground. The car parks there. The sensor detects that there's a car there. And then we have an API interface with the e-charging point, which we had to work with the ESB. And again, they had a desire to make it happen because this is a real problem. So now we know if somebody's parking on the street at the e-charging point, kicks off a timer, the e-charging point hasn't been engaged, and after a certain amount of time, it sends an alert to the warden to say, look, somebody's parked in the e-charging point and they're not charging the car. So a very simple application, but again, it was able to be delivered very quickly because the connectivity was there. There's some other applications here, like the facility management, and once you go inside of the facility and you want to look at things you want to measure, control, again, you could lose the run of yourself. There's so many things from an energy point of view, from a cooling point of view, from a temperature, from doors opening, closing, and the applications can be rolled out very quickly. Once the network is already there, you don't have to worry about it. It's a very quick setup. On the energy management side, then, this is something that we're actually now looking at ourselves. So we have, at every single one of our sites across the country, we have obviously ESB connections coming in, and we're now looking at the renewable energy strategy across the estate. And we're saying, right, we're going to use the IoT network. We're going to put whatever monitors we need to put in place so we can track, understand, and improve what we're doing at the sites in order to make them better, to make sure we can measure the improvements that we're bringing in terms of an energy point of view. And, I think once we start doing that, there are now other things emerging, even at our own sites, that we want to look at. And we have a very simple example of, the gates opening, closing. All of these things are possible. And again, it's possible because the network is there. All we're really focused on is the actual sensor technology. And as I said at the start, Cellnex is working across 12 different countries in Europe. They're rolling out applications or working with companies that are rolling out applications in each of these markets. And we're getting a huge insight from that and being able to bring those experiences into the Irish market. But the one thing I would say is we are looking for the companies that are trying to operate in this space to come forward and to talk to us and see what we can do to help them, because what we're trying to do is provide the platform, the network. What we've been doing over the last couple of months in rolling out these projects is really the proof of concept. But we don't see ourselves, that's not our primary focus. Our primary focus is to provide the network, to make sure it's resilient, and to give the opportunity to companies that want to get up and running quickly, rolling out these applications to clients and companies. That's really our objective. There's many other use cases there. Just to finish off, just to talk about some of the projects, to summarize them. The smart beach, just a smart beach project down in Kerry. We're down in Inch Beach in Kerry, and I heard about this project and I was like, what's a smart beach? And like, there's so many things that you can do. Very simple things like the life buoy. So there's a sensor on the life buoy, and it's not tracking the life buoy, but it's making sure that the life buoy is attached to what it's supposed to be attached to. So once that link is broken, then we know that the life buoy is not where it should be. And that's a very simple application. Obviously, the council wants to monitor the traffic. They want to monitor, the bins at the beach. So there's lots of different things there that they're doing in relation to that project. But again, you can see the picture there. That's the actual site itself. So the site was rolled out. It came on a pre-installed pole, and the cabinet, everything, it was literally dropped into place, and that was up and running very quickly. I mentioned some of the other ones there. We're also looking at some flood monitoring projects, the river levels, and even the flow of the river, so we can, over time, we can provide that data. And then the last one there that I didn't mention is that we're also looking at the fresh and salt water quality monitoring. So again, all these things are very quick to roll out once the network is there. And I think that's, again, the main message today really for everybody that's involved in this space is that we are going to be up and running with a national network over the next 12 to 18 months. We have a plan, it's been rolled out, but if something comes up that there's a need, for example, in a particular area, then we can change the plan and roll out the sites in that area to meet the particular requirements. So while we have a plan to get a national footprint, if a particular area becomes important during that period, then we can change that plan and make sure that the service is there. So look, that's really what I think that's the last slide. So thanks very much. I'm not sure, Pat, if there's an opportunity for questions. Happy to take them.
There certainly is time. Thank you very much, Colin. Very interesting talk about the real world. Yes, plenty of time for questions up to 2 o'clock.
No, thanks indeed. Very interesting talk. I can just wonder for all the use cases and the prospective clients and customers and whatever you deploy here, do you see that's, I think a bit from the researcher point of view, a bit, but of course, or for the developments, is it, Laura Van, for example, all good and fit for purpose for your business, etc., or would you see, or can you come up to think of, oh, that would be great if you have those additional features or those improvements, then we can do far more business? Do you see something like that today, or you might need more, whatever experience to know better before you can identify such things. Perhaps, I don't know.
This is sorry. This is where we could see what's happening inside the research organizations, how that might benefit.
No, sorry, no, I'm thinking, I mean, if you have come across issues or problems with your deployments, or I mean, and say, okay, these are unnecessary restrictions or performance constraints, that would be great if you can do something better, and perhaps we need whatever help from potentially a research organization to do something.
Yeah, well, I think when you look at any of the applications, for example, right? So it's the practicality of the sensor. Okay, so what we're doing right now is using what's out there, what's already there, what's already been tried and tested. But I think I heard earlier that there's an element of trust here. There's an element of understanding that's required in terms of IoT. Like I've been involved in telecommunications for the last 20+ years. And somebody mentioned IoT, a couple of years ago, and I didn't really understand what it was. And it's only now when you start to see, and it's when people start to really see the practical life examples, it starts to open your mind to the possibility, right? And I think that's where I see where the research element comes in, and how do I make the sensor smaller? How do I make it more robust? How do I make it longer lasting, right? And like we're putting in a sensor on the ground, on the car park spot, and you're looking at that from a lot of different real life requirements in terms of trip hazard and even the aesthetics. How does it look? Does it fit in with the color of the ground? And you need to nearly make it invisible, right? Because IoT should be invisible. And I think that's the real challenge, is how to minimize the size of the sensors, how to make them longer lasting. And I think that's an area where definitely there's a requirement from the research side. And then even from the research side, I'm sure there's lots of new things that can be done. And as I said, I think one of the values we can bring to that is making sure that any of the research areas that they're covered, so you have access to that network to carry out testing and to validate the research that you're doing in terms of any developments. And we really believe that trying to make that easy, so that you don't have somebody in the university trying to hang something off a roof, trying to create this network when it's actually there already and we can make it available. So, the message is like we want to work with the universities, want to work with the research organizations, and then we want to open this up to the startup companies, established companies, and trying to get them moving very quickly. Yeah.
Thank you. Another question from over here. Just say your name, please.
Hi, myself Jobish John, and thanks for the interesting talk. And my question is regarding the connectivity. So you are rolling out a LoRa-based solution, and there is something called narrowband IoT or cellular-based connectivity solutions are out there. So from an end user perspective, if we want to deploy sensors or something, for example, a parking use case, there is a choice whether I can go for LoRa-based network or a narrowband IoT or cellular-based networks on a long run. So what are your thoughts on that? Because many of the use cases have some common things. I mean, from the connectivity point of view, we may go for LoRaWAN or narrowband IoT or something of that sort.
So I think the answer is quite simple. I mean, it depends on the complexity of what you're trying to achieve. And I think the different types of IoT networks provide you with the different levels of capability. So it really depends on what it is or how complex you want to make it. Are you trying to deliver something that has a lot of interactivity, or you're trying to control something at the other end, or are you just trying to get data that allows you to make decisions? And I think if you are just doing that, And then the LoRa network was well capable to offer that. And I think that's basically what we're trying to do is that platform to allow people deploy sensors that gives them data to allow them to make decisions quickly, and to react to the decision as well. So like the simple examples that I've given there, the council now doesn't have to be sending somebody out every week to collect every one of the bins when half of them are actually empty. And there's a real impact there in terms of the environment. And and then when there's actually 2 or 3 maybe bins that are overflowing every week, maybe they should be collecting them twice a week. So, I think that's the answer is back to the question: what is it that you're trying to do? And if you want to have a lot more control, well, then I think you need a different type of network there to support that. So hopefully that's answered the question.
Are there any other questions? I think a lot of food for thought there, a lot of food for, I see the word imagine around here a lot. A lot of people need to imagine how they're going to use all this.
Well, Pat, I think, what we've realized ourselves from our own business point of view is that, the capability now that this offers us, and it's, like we've a lot of new people in the business over the last 12 months, 18 months, who didn't know anything about IoT. But when you actually start explaining it and getting into the examples, people are coming forward with ideas themselves to say, oh yeah, we could do this, because they know now that the network is there. And I think I heard it mentioned earlier that it's that trust thing of, trusting that it's there and it's working and it can deliver what we need, right? But I think there is an education piece as well. And, that's part of what we'd like to be involved in, is trying to see how we can establish a link to the education part of it, and trying to get out into the, into the broader population with an explanation. Because if you talk to somebody, that doesn't know anything about technology and you mention IoT, they don't really know what it means, right? So I think there's a big challenge there. And that's something that, we're certainly capable or very interested in playing a role in it.
Well, we're certainly interested in doing education and public engagement. Our new education and public engagement manager, Dan Ferrick, is here. I'd be glad to introduce you later on. Yeah. And part of our mission is to spend 5% of our budget actually going out and engaging with communities. So I think we should talk.
And there could be opportunity there maybe to bring some of those things to the schools, sort of various little models of how this works, and to show children how the IoT can really help. Because the simple example there from our point of view in terms of the renewable energy, and that's going to be like, it's going to be a topic of conversation for every single house, not just every business, right? So when you do go and spend money on your solar panel or your wind turbine or whatever it is, you want to know what it's doing, right? So that the IoT can play a role in that, in terms of being able to monitor and to advise in terms of what's actually, what's the benefit? Do I need to take an action? Is there something else I should do? So, I think it's a really exciting space, and I think it's about to explode, I believe, in the next 2 to 3 years. And the one last thing I'd just say, I know Paul Delaney's actually on the line here. He's going to kill me now, because he's on the webinar today. Paul has been working on this for the last 2 years, and he's been setting up the frameworks. I know he's been working with a lot of the councils. He's been working with a lot of the stakeholders, and I would strongly encourage, if anybody has an interest in trying to get in contact with Cellnex, is to contact Paul. I can share details later with you in terms of maybe getting that information out. And we, as I said, we do want to establish relationships with companies and partners that want to do things, and we will absolutely guarantee that the network is there. It will be resilient, and if something is needed quickly, we'll get it done.
Fantastic. We must talk longer. I could spend another half an hour talking to you over coffee.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thank you again, Colin, for coming in and giving us